everybody, welcome to Thrive Physical Therapy. My name is Dr. Snyder, and today we're going to go over some really cool exercises that we can utilize with the Core-Tex when we're dealing with a client or a patient that has a knee issue or more of a lower extremity issue. There's so many things we can do with this tool. We're going to be more focusing on different degrees of difficulty, so beginner, or intermediate, and advanced. And that'll be kind of based off of your position, the challenge we're putting through the body. So stay tuned, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And so we're going to start with the first exercise. This is going to be more of the foundational movement, a little bit easier. And so this one is going to be great for anyone who's dealing with knee pain, particularly someone who has an ACL issue, whether it's actually injured or repaired. So start on your back, and we're going to try to have your knee in a position that feels comfortable. So that might be that your knee is a little bit straighter, going back and forth. Again, we're trying to work on the hamstring to concentrically control it, eccentrically let it go away. You can also look at it more of a fact if I'm going to actually concentrically press my leg away, would be more of my quads. And we can start to look at different rotations. And we're trying to be rhythmic with this. Try to control everything from a whole leg approach. Other way. Again, alignment is huge, so ASIS, kneecap, second toe is the goal. And trying to be smooth with this would be a great way to kind of wake up all of our proprioceptors in that knee to kind of get into some of those hard exercises. So here's the second exercise. This should be possibly a step up from the one we just talked about. So here you're actually going to start by sitting on the Core-Tex. And here what's different is that you're sitting on the reactive surface, but the leg that we're focusing on is now on a stable surface. So it's going to be a little different challenge for the body. So we'll start with just kind of getting back and forth again. If you don't feel comfortable having one leg on its own like this, you can bring the other leg down, almost like if a kickstand was there for a single leg deadlift or whatever. But one leg up, back and forth, just like we did before. Core's on here, so we're not getting a lot of lumbar flexion. You can go back and forth. Now that was too hard for me with one foot, so I put 2 feet down, back and forth. And we can kind of get into those areas here of circles. I'm focusing on my right leg. This is my involved leg here, so I'm really trying to get my hamstring to pull myself through this. And then to make it a little bit more challenging, we can also go into movements where we're moving away from this very stable leg. So now I'm getting my whole body to move, but I'm making my leg stay very stable. And that's asking a lot of other muscles to control as opposed to create motion. So both are important to try with a workout. So here's a little bit of a variation. So the exercise we just talked about, I've just put Post to Elite on the top of the Core-Tex, powerful duo. So now I'm going to actually increase the height of where I'm sitting. So this could take some strain off the knee if you're having an issue being low. Honestly, for me, this adds a little bit more awareness, like my core. I have to really control my pelvis angle a little bit better. So same idea, back and forth. Honestly, for me personally, I feel like I have to work a little bit more through my hamstring. One thing we didn't mention on the first round was you can actually start to rotate this leg out a bit to bias more towards your lateral hamstring, or bias a little more into internal rotation and get possibly more medial hamstring. So this is an option to kind of change with this. And if someone's having a hard time with balance in that space, you could use those handrails for just a little bit more control, but still doing up and down, circular patterns, back and forth. All are good to do at this second phase of this exercise. So now this next exercise is going to be a little bit more intermediate because we're now standing. So again, my involved leg is going to be my right, my uninvolved is my left. So we're going to start working on just weight shift. So if I start to weight shift into this side, how comfortable do I feel? Do I immediately get that thing to shift over? Can I keep it in the middle of the rails? You can weight shift back and forth. Hands are here in case you need a little more stability. That's really great. Now let's say this is okay. You're not really having a challenge with this. You can start going into whatever degree of percentage of weight to this side you can tolerate. And then we can start doing that rhythmic controlled movement again to kind of get that whole body to react. Forward and back, side to side. And it's really wonderful to start feeling the stabilizers of my hip and my whole leg have to work much harder to kind of get this control. Circles, and other way, again. Great exercise for intermediate people would need it. So the next one is another degree of that intermediate level of difficulty. So we're gonna now keep our body on the Core-Tex, but now we're gonna do it more like a bridge series. So we're gonna go from a sitting situation to coming down to where you're gonna get your mid-back on that Core-Tex, making sure it feels like you're floating. You're not gonna be starting at that end range on the bumper. So for me, adduction is a bit harder for me, so I'm gonna start a little bit more like hip distance, a little bit wider. And I'm just gonna start in that bridge, again, trying to keep that Core-Tex floating and just see, can I maintain those 3 points of contact in my feet, and can I just start to keep this Core-Tex smooth going up and down? And harder would be getting your knees a little bit more narrow. more adduction. For me, that's definitely harder. Going into side to side. We're trying to control as much as you possibly can. So if your core and glutes and hamstrings are not working, something's wrong. And then we can try to get into circles, back and forth, get as smooth as the goal. And then upping a little bit harder would be, again, going into the rhythm of the Cor-Tex with that bridge. So coming down with the hips, core staying on, and then driving back up as that Cor-Tex slides towards you. So I'm pulling my heels toward my butt to get my hamstrings to fire, and controlling it back, pulling back into that space. If you are a superstar, getting into some single leg work back and forth, that is real difficult. Again, side to side, I can't really do, but then getting to that motion of where you can actually go into a single leg bridge if you're feeling super strong. So the next one, we're gonna do a little bit more of an advanced movement. This is a curtsy lunge. And so we're gonna start in standing. The involved side is gonna go in the center of that logo. It's very important to be in the center. Both hands are gonna come to the handrail. And we're gonna start kind of easy to hard with this movement. So there's a ton of different things that we can be doing. So reactive variability is important for this. You're actually gonna go through 10 to 15 reps that are all different. So I can go really slow and I can not go real deep. I can just kind of control that movement. As kind of the starting point, I can make that a bigger range. So I'm having to work a little bit harder to reach a little bit further. Making sure we're going all the way straight. We want to get that big bend, big straight going through. I can start to go into a little bit of a faster component. So I can control that motion a bit harder. And we can also change the degree if I'm going to go down for 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 1. So tempo is also huge on this one as well, but honestly, sky's the limit in terms of how many times you can make this difficult for your client. All right, so this is our kind of final movement. This is going to be a posterior lunge with a item that we're trying to move around. So that's the cone, that's the slider. This one's great because I'm getting a lot of challenge to the intrinsics of my foot. I'm getting a lot of challenge to the stabilizers of my knee and my pelvis, all the way up to my body. So this would be a great example of a movement to do for your athlete who is crushing a lot of your single plane movements in the gym. You're really confident, but you're about to get them into some unstable environments and you're not necessarily sure you've kind of got their system to stabilize yet. This is a really wonderful way to start that process. So standing on the center of the Cor-Tex, my involved view is my right. Hands are on. I'm gonna get that slider set up over here. The first thing we're gonna do is just kind of get into an isometric hold. And we're gonna try to move that slider around that cone without a lot of movement from the Cor-Tex. So we don't want to see a ton of that motion. 3 points of contact with the foot, making sure the arch is gripping in, you're stable, that kneecap is staying right on top of that second toe, and your core, your glutes, everything should be firing right now to maintain that stable base. And then you can start working on more motion. So I can get into triple flexion, standing back up. So now I'm actually having to control all that motion within that movement I'm now adding. So this is a lot of different variables, ton of work going on here everywhere else. So this is a really good one to get into a bigger level of challenge for this leg before you get back to like return to play.